Tonight, the Ohio Department of Education remains in place for now. Good evening and thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Yolanda Harris.
And I'm Andrew Kinsey. A court hearing was held today to determine whether the State Department of Education will exist come midnight tonight. 10 TV's Doug Petcash was in the courtroom with what the judge decided. Doug.
Well, Andrew, basically the judge decided she needs more time to make a decision on whether to issue a temporary injunction to halt the transfer of power from the State Board of Education to the governor's office. She asked both sides to submit their evidence and arguments to her by noon on Wednesday, and then after that a decision could come. Now, under a new law, the State Department of Education is set to become the State Department of Education and Workforce at midnight tonight. Lawyers for several State Board of Education members who are suing and other plaintiffs have been arguing the Republican-backed overhaul of how the state oversees K-12 education violates the state constitution. Today's hearing lasted about 6 hours. We heard from several witnesses. They included plaintiff and State Board of Education member Dr. Christina Collins, who says she is suing as a parent, not as a board member, and testifying for the state, Jessica Voltolini, the chief of staff for the Department of Ed.
I think the constitutional referendum from 1953 that resulted in the powers of the board in 1956 and has withstood the test of time for 70 years, that gives the public a voice, and public meetings with ours are televised, with the dialogue and the discussion and the decision making being public and transparent is what people deserve.
We'll still have to advocate for budget provisions in the next biennial budget through the state budget process as it applies to every cabinet agency. We'll still have public meetings as passed in the uncodified provisions of the bill.
A temporary restraining order a judge issued in September blocking lawmakers from transferring the power from the State Board of Education to the governor's office is still in effect through Thursday. But again, a judge will make a decision on the temporary injunction sometime after noon on Wednesday. Live at the courthouse in downtown Columbus, Doug Petcash, 10 TV News.
Doug, thank you. Governor Mike DeWine was paying close attention to today's hearing and just held a virtual news conference in the past hour.
10 TV's Richard Solomon has been listening in to that news conference. And Richard, what did the governor have to say?
Well, Yolanda, Andrew, the governor, Mike DeWine, and Lieutenant Governor John Husted say they are not going to let this situation get any worse because it puts the education of students at jeopardy. The governor says at midnight, the current Department of Education will no longer exist, and that's because of the law passed by the General Assembly. So what does that mean for tomorrow? That would mean there will be no existing department to oversee more than 600 school systems in the state of Ohio. But Governor DeWine says under the current law, the new Department of Education and Workforce will exist. He says under the court order, they will not take any active parts. That means no transferring of power or appointing any new officials. Governor DeWine says this is critical because so many students and teachers need support.
It's important that support be given to our teachers. It's important for our school children in the state of Ohio. And as governor, I'm not going to allow this situation to exist where we don't know where we're going because of this court ruling, and children are not served.
And the governor says this lawsuit is simply holding back students and making sure they get the help they need to be successful. We'll have more tonight at 11.